Make you mine. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll need some more super greed. Spend a lot of extra time waiting for the acolyte. I am gonna catch that fool. You will think I'm really cool. All I wanna do is impress you with my mouse trap. All I wanna do is convince you with my cheese. All I wanna do is be the coolest cat here, but I'll...
Good morning, MouseHunt. Welcome, Feedback Friday, November 20th. Hopefully this goes all right. We've been having a few minor internet issues at the office today, so hopefully the internet decides to cooperate and stream well for us. We'll see. Some things have been slow, others have been fast. I wonder if it's a bit of a routing issue between us and other places on the internet, but hopefully things are quick for us to YouTube to stream. How's everyone in the chat doing today? Thanks for joining me. Hello in the chat. Good morning. Some people were enjoying the song at the start there. Yeah, that is the Off the MouseHunt album. I keep that handy. Nico just linked to it in the chat, so there you go if you were curious. Doing well, awesome. All right, great to hear. Well, today we're going to have a few things we're going to do, fill you in on what we've been working on. A few announcements as well, so there have been some recent updates. We didn't have a news post, just kind of a news ticker, so just wanted to shed a little bit more light on a couple of the recent updates. What else do we have going on? Like I said, we're going to show you what we've been working on. Spoiler alert, a lot of great winter hunt. We'll get to that. I have a feedback question for hunters in the chat as well about what they'd like to see in 2016. And finally, a trivia question, as we so often end things on as well. Ask hunters in the chat a trivia question. If they get the correct answer, which I don't think we've ever stumped anyone ever, we'll post the reward link. So there was a couple of recent updates, actually a few recent updates to the game. So if you noticed in the ticker, there were some prize mouse updates recently, and we've sort of discussed this in previous Feedback Fridays, and all those updates are now live in the game. So now, after every hunt where you attract a mouse, you have a chance of having a bonus hunt occur, which you can encounter a prize mouse during that bonus hunt. The bonus hunt will not consume any bait or charms, and with that change, now prize mice can be encountered with any type of bait in the entire game, because you'll never lose a piece of valuable cheese to a prize mouse because you don't lose a piece of cheese on these bonus hunts. You can also encounter prize mice now everywhere in the kingdom. Minus the meadow is the one exception. You cannot attract prize mice in the meadow. And a final little stipulation, if you happen to be a newer player, and I mean brand new, you have to complete the tutorial as well before you're eligible for those bonus prize mouse encounters as well. I had a question from the chat, will glitch paw mice use the system as well? That's a great idea. Quite a few hunters have suggested that, and that is definitely on our to-do list, but as of right now, the glitch paw mice do not work in the same way. We may also update the bonus, was it the Lucky Mouse mini event as well. Sometimes we run a weekend where there is the Lucky Mouse is on the loose. We may have it work in the same way as well. So you can just enjoy the luck bonus wherever you want it, and occasionally the Lucky Mouse will show up as a bonus. But again, we haven't made that change right now, just prize mice work that way. So you will never lose a piece of cheese to a prize mouse. They also do not affect area progress at all. So although you can encounter them in the labyrinth, failing to capture a prize mouse will never give you a dead end. It also won't move you forward in the hallway any extra or mess with any of that. In the sunken city, you won't lose any oxygen for that bonus hunt. So they're pure just bonus hunt, really, is a great, perfect way to think about it. From the chat, we had a comment that prize mice are always messing up my area progress. No longer the case. They will not break warpath streaks, consume oxygen, give dead ends, none of that. So that works out really well. And like I said, you can counter them with any cheese. So even if you're using, let's say, diamond cheese or tier 8 gauntlet cheese, which is really valuable, you'll still attract the Eclipse mouse for your tier 8 cheese, he'll eat your cheese, and then you get a bonus hunt, potentially, for a prize mouse, and that will not use any cheese. So just to try to be as clear as possible. Another minor update we've done as well for related to prize mouse has to do with the leprechaun. If you watched Feedback Friday last week, you'll notice Jacob was drawing a rather shiny satchel of gold. That is now in the game as a potential drop from leprechaun mice, and it's called the Mystery Satchel of Gold. And that's the counterpart to the regular Mystery Pot of Gold, which the leprechaun previously dropped. So now there's a chance of getting either or of those mystery items. The difference is the Satchel of Gold is a little bit smaller, so there's not as much gold in there, not as much Super Brie, and instead of a chance of cash from the Satchel of Gold, you can find quite a hefty quantity of Rainbow Luck Charms or King's Credits. And so now we've added this extra item because that will allow us to release a few more leprechauns than previously before, because there's not always the chance for cash on a leprechaun, so that lets us release a few more without sort of breaking our budget. Yeah, obviously, with them being worth up to $25 or $50, that's it's a little awkward to have too many being caught. So we've added an alternative non-cash related prize so that we can release a few more leprechauns than previously. 50-50? No, not quite. I think it's about 75-25. So the pot of gold, I think, is 25, and the satchel of gold is 75. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it's at. It also allows us to fine-tune that ratio during giveaway events and stuff. So it gives us a measure of control to say, okay, well, we want more cash to go out during the giveaway. We can increase the odds of the pot of gold, or vice versa. So it gives us a little bit more playing room with how many leprechauns we're going to have in the game at any given time, without obviously breaking the bank and going bankrupt and running out of business because there's too many leprechauns being caught for cash. The second update, which is live in the game right now, is called the King's Cart. Now, this was first introduced on mobile. It's been in mobile for quite some time. We finally were able to bring it to the browser. And it is basically a delivery system where the King's Cart will deliver things from the King's Arms straight to you no matter where you are. So you no longer need to travel to the King's Arms to spend your King's credits and cash those in that you earn in your daily loyalty chests. And it is somewhat related to prize mice because prize mice do drop quite a bit of King's credits as well. So you no longer need to travel to the Arms to buy things with your credits. And that it can be accessed if you go to the shops drop down in the game. You'll see a new section that says King's Cart, and you can browse the entire King's Arms from there. Yeah, a question or a comment from the chat is that cart can go into the Acolyte realm. It must be a very experienced hunter. I don't know who's pulling the cart, but they definitely know how to traverse the catacombs and Forbidden Grove. I can also enter the tower, I guess, too. Finally, another update we have done is specifically for the mobile version of the game, the mobile app. There's been quite the barrage of updates recently. Actually, I think in November there's already been 3 updates. Now, unfortunately, the first update in November was to add the Halloween HUD to the iOS app because that was delayed. It took about a month for it to go through the review process with Apple. So that update was a little bit moot for iOS. However, there's been 2 other updates since in November. The first one prepared the app for the upcoming Advent calendar in December. So come December 1st, if you have the latest version of the MouseHunt mobile app, there'll be a banner will appear and you'll be able to interact with the Advent calendar, claim your rewards and stuff. Yep, the update is out from the chat. Someone asked about Android. It's out for Android as well. The second update that we released, I think this week, if I recall, adds the adventure book to MouseHunt mobile app. So you can view all the adventures, you can track your progress, you can claim rewards, you can do all that good stuff. Have a couple screenshots. This is from the mobile app. That looks a little blurry. You can tell me in the chat if it looks as blurry to you as it does to me, but this will give you a basic idea. It'll list all the adventures, categorized by title. I'm having trouble speaking this morning. And then when you tap the adventure, it will bring up all the details of the adventure. You can see check marks where they are. Yeah, it is quite blurry. I'll post a summary in the tavern, and I will include these images as well, so they will be a little less blurry. Gives you a rough idea of the layout. Yeah, I am broadcasting in slightly lower quality today because I was unsure of our internet capabilities. It seemed as though the internet was being a little slow today, so I didn't want to go 720p. I think I'm in 240. That's as low as it goes. Comment from the chat. I think there's 6 pixels. Yes, we've added 6 new pixels to the MouseHunt mobile app to view adventures. Like I said, I'll post a summary in the tavern section as well, and I'll upload those images in full resolution. Unless that was the problem, maybe I downloaded them in low resolution. That's possible as well. So this brings us, that's a summary of what's already released. This brings us to next section, kind of call it behind the scenes. It's a little summary of what we're currently working on, all of our work in progress stuff, not yet in the game, but we're working on right now. So I want to clarify that because previous Feedback Fridays, there's a little bit of confusion, especially when you read the summary sometimes. Depending on how the tense is worded, it may sound like it's a news post instead of a preview of things to come. So we're working on a few things. One thing called the King's Calibrator, and then the other thing we're working on is the Great Winter Hunt. So first, the King's Calibrator. I showed an image of this right off the start here.
Just watch me, mouse. Just watch me catch you.
There we go.
Just
Nope, music's still playing. Uh-oh. Hold on. We'll get there. We'll get there. There we go. Alright, I am having some great technical difficulty putting up images on the screen, apparently. Alright, I'm back, without music this time. This is the King's Calibrator, so we've been working on this. It's pretty well finished, however, you cannot get it in the game yet. It'll be an item available from the King's Arms, or delivered to you using the King's Cart. And then once you have the King's Calibrator, you can purchase, using King's Credits, a variety of upgrades to it, which will give you bonuses and special abilities and things like that. So once this is available, the 4 abilities that we're going to add to it to start with, and we will likely add more down the road as well based off feedback from hunters. The 4 we're going to include from the start is the ability to choose which cheese you receive in daily loyalty chests. You can increase the quantity of gold you find in your daily loyalty chests, increase the claim limit for free daily gifts every day, and increase the send limit for free daily gifts as well. So now this item will be in your inventory, and you'll be able to calibrate it from there, if I can find that image. So it'll be in your inventory. There'll be a big old calibrate button you can click on, and that will open up your King's Calibrator where you can customize it using King's Credits. If I can find where that is. So here's a very blurry looking image as well, but you can see there'll be a table where you'll be able to pick from a few different types of cheese. They tend to be more of the cheese you have to collect lots of, so you won't expect to see anything like diamond cheese or tier 8 gauntlet cheese, because that would be a little too easy to get, but a lot of more of the types of cheese that you need lots of in various areas as well. So this will likely be coming early 2016, so it's a little bit of a heads up as well if you want to start saving up a few King's Credits as well. You can see the list of cheese here. It goes everywhere from radioactive blue right up to mineral cheese as well is the most expensive one. There is Gruyere, Dusk Shade Camembert, Fishy Fromage, Limelight, Runic, Ancient, Riftiago. Quite a few different types of cheese. And similarly, it's a little hard to make out in that blurry image, but there are tabs along the top, and you'll be able to see a preview of what you'll find in all your daily loyalty chests. There's a tab where you can upgrade the amount of gold you find in the daily loyalty chests, and another tab where you can customize the claim and send limits for your gifts. And in the chat, somebody is sad that there's no tier 8 cheese, but that would definitely be a little overpowered to find in your daily loyalty chest. I don't think the king can procure a large enough supply of such rare cheese. There will also, actually there's a comment in the chat, it's good to point out there will be title restrictions on these cheese as well. So if you are a legendary hunter, you can only unlock cheese that is appropriate for that title. So you know, if you're a lower level hunter, yeah, you can't select glowing Gruyere, and then by the time you get to the labyrinth have this massive stockpile of Gruyere ready to go. That will unlock when you hit Duke, or is it Grand Duke? I forget already the title restriction on the labyrinth, but it coincides with the level typically needed for the area in which you find that bait. So the other section we're working on here, what's become the focus of pretty well every dev here now, is the Great Winter Hunt. We kind of have all hands on deck. Derek's working on the mobile app, doing a HUD for the Great Winter Hunt. Andrew's been working on the HUD. Jacob and Lauren are doing mice and HUD assets. Giorgio and Franco are working on all the kind of logic behind everything and getting everything functionally working as well, so you can hunt mice for the Great Winter Hunt. So as I think we mentioned in a previous Feedback Friday, this year's event is going to have a toboggan racing theme. So hunters will be constructing upgrades for their very own toboggan. It'll be a little bit of an over-the-top themed toboggan with rocket boosters and that sort of thing. And you'll be racing down slopes against a rival mouse. And you'll be able to pick different difficulties of slopes and race different mice with different skills in their own toboggans as well. So you want to upgrade your toboggan to be able to defeat some of the tougher, more challenging mice as you fly down the hill. I have a work in progress shot, and I want to stress that this is a work in progress to give a kind of a sense of where we're going with it. So this is obviously a very sort of rough version of it. Now, I did take a screenshot from my local version of the game here as well. So it is functional, but obviously there's not really any art. And that looks like a very rough ski hill. It looks more like a scene from Home Alone where he goes flying down the staircase on a toboggan. But this will give you kind of a rough idea of how that works. That lovely depicted yellow arrow is your toboggan, and as you go down the hill, which will be smoothed out to not look like a staircase, there will be various obstacles in your way, and those will also be illustrated by an artist and not be red circles with an exclamation mark. Seems polished was a comment from the chat. I do want to stress, work in progress. I even put it right in the image to avoid any confusion here. But it might be interesting too, you can give a little bit of preview or insight into our workflow as well of kind of where things start, and this will be interesting once it all comes together to look at the final version versus our sort of prototype, if you will. And we like to kind of make something very crude and basic to play through things a little bit, make sure they're how we like it before we dedicate a lot of time, a lot of the artist's time to start drawing things. And I think I have some other images as well, if I can find them. I got a lot of stuff going on here. A couple other little teasers now from the Great Winter Hunt. Is there anything else I want to show? Oh, yeah. I had a question from the chat. What do the red circles mean? They will be various obstacles on the course as well, and you'll be able to build upgrades on your toboggan to overcome those obstacles. It'll have a bit of a unique feel as well. We're playing around with how the speed of the toboggan is going to work, so there'll be different things you can do to affect how fast your toboggan goes, and things on the hill that slow you down or speed you up. And this is one of the new mice coming to the Great Winter Hunt. And if I can find my other one, I like this mouse. This is a very, very startling looking mouse. And I think if I recall correctly what this mouse is intended for, you will probably want to avoid this mouse as best you can. Nice teeth. He might need a dentist, though. It looks like there's a little bit of tartar buildup on those teeth. Maybe got into the Halloween candy a little bit too much. Maybe too much candy corn cheese. It's just been now on a horrible sugar binge. It's going to rage down that toboggan hill. So another Great Winter Hunt related piece of information here is how the rewards work. So instead of ice coins, it's going to have a bit of a different feel for how you're earning your rewards. And there's going to be various courses themed by all the different areas or adventures in the game. And the courses have different difficulties and lengths and things like that. And the course that you choose determines the reward that you're going to find when you get down the hill if you beat the rival mouse that you're racing against. So for example, if you pick the Feroma course, when you get to the bottom, you may find your reward is student tokens, something like that. Whereas if you pick, say, a Hollow Heights course, you may find things like lantern oil or glowing Gruyere, things like that. So it has a little bit of, we took some inspiration from the Cupcake Order's birthday event as well. So it'll have a bit of a similar feel in that regard as far as how rewards work, where for the birthday, choosing which cupcake orders you wanted to ship determined what sort of rewards you were interested in receiving. And something very similar here, the courses that you choose to race down will determine the rewards that you get for that course as well. And that lets us kind of balance the difficulty and the types of mice and the power types you might use on that slope to kind of be appropriate for that type of reward that you're finding. We'll see. I think there will still be a use for ice coins as well, but no guarantees on that right now. It's still a bit of a detail that we're working out. One thing we did notice with quite a few of the events when we have an event currency is that a lot of hunters do not spend it. So we find this works a little bit better. It's a little bit more exciting because you see what you get. You don't have to sort of decide at the end of it as well. We do notice there's a lot of sort of weird indecisiveness of what should I buy, so this kind of helps smooth things out. We found that the way the cupcake orders worked went a lot better as well. This brings us to our feedback question. It has to do with 2016 as well. Actually, good. There's some comments in the chat as well. You like the cupcake order reward, so that's good. That's we had a lot of great feedback on the birthday event, so we wanted to kind of incorporate that mechanism of rewards as well into more events, since it seemed to work a little bit better. Someone asked about the stuck snowball mouse coming back in the chat there, and all the event mice will be back now. Whether it's back in the exact same way or not is kind of yet to be determined as well. It is awfully challenging. There are a lot of reoccurring themes in the Great Winter Hunt, and to sort of ball those all up, if I can use that, into one big snowball of an event is often challenging, and it kind of makes everything a little bit messy or sort of muddy, and the details get sort of lost. So all the event mice will be there to capture, but how you capture them may be different from previous years. Which bait for the Great Winter Hunt was a question from the chat. We're still kind of working out the details. It's a little too early to preview any specifics for the Great Winter Hunt. Another question was about the rainbow maps mentioned in previous Feedback Friday. That will likely come with the King's Calibrator update, and so you'll probably see that early 2016, the rainbow maps will come out. Which is a nice segue to get back to the topic I started there was about 2016. I have a feedback question for hunters in the chat, and if you're watching this recorded, there'll be a summary posted in the tavern section of the forum. You can let us know your feedback there. And it's what areas or storylines are you most excited to see? Because we've been planning out a little bit of our roadmap for 2016, and we have a few sort of rough things placed in, but we're obviously looking for feedback as well and see what hunters are excited about. So there's quite a few options here. There is the option of a massive Varmint Valley expansion. The law power type needs to see quite a bit of expansion as well. So this would add new law traps, new law mice, and it'd be something rather substantial. You could think around the size of the Tribal Isles in terms of number of areas and mice and stuff like that. The other thing we sort of have sitting on the to-do list is the next Rift area as well. It would be most likely be a Grand Duke Duchess area, and it would most likely be the Feroma Rift as well. There's a lot of enthusiasm for law. Another little piece of content on our to-do list is a higher level Sunken City type expansion, something for like the Sunken City but a little higher level, more places to explore, new depths to reach, new areas to find, and things like that. With the Labyrinth coming out as well, there is a little bit of foreshadowing in what would come next in the Hollow Heights as well, new high-level Forgotten, Arcane, and Shadow areas that would sort of follow up on the Labyrinth, although it would likely start a new sort of storyline, but you would see what is past Zokor. And finally, Draconic, similar to Law, is in need of quite a few areas, some new traps. There's lots of room to play around with there and add more mice, so a new sort of Draconic storyline. Now, as of right now, that would be kind of slotted for after the Hollow Heights expansion, so it's sort of in the back of our minds, something that we want to make really, really high level, Grand Duke, Archduke type thing. So that might not come next, but that might be a follow-up to one of those areas. All of the above in the chat was a suggestion as well. That may take a while to put together. Some enthusiasm for Draconic. Let's be taking notes. More Plank Run notes was a suggestion, and actually that's a bit of an interesting story too. They've sort of fell by the wayside. They need a kind of a complete overhaul, which makes us not too enthusiastic to continue with them until we have a chance to give them that overhaul. The Plank Run pages started out as a bit of an experiment in a way of teaching hunters crafting recipes and things like that. It didn't really work too well for that purpose. That also explains why some of the early ones, the earlier pages, are descriptions of mice or like hunting tips. The Feroma pages contain the recipes for that. So I think we'd overhaul that into a bit more of a collectible lore sort of bonus feature rather than something that was tried to make more essential to the game. A lot of comments for all of them. New library assignments was a suggestion as well. That actually similarly is another piece of the game that needs quite an overhaul. It's not particularly great the way the assignments work, so it's in the back of our minds, but it's not at a large priority at the moment. There's a question about a possible Sunken City expansion. It would be a brand new area, I would think. Obviously, there's no details. It's nothing we've really worked on concrete, but it would be a separate diving location, so it wouldn't interfere with your current diving progress in the Sunken City. Any plans to overhaul trains? We may take a little bit of a look while we're doing a law area, smooth out the way some of the rewards work. But no specific plans right now. And a comment about the assignments and sort of liking them the way they are. It's more of a technical aspect, actually. It's rather challenging to add new library assignments. And it's something that takes a lot of time. And so, when we're weighing, should we do A or B, the amount of time it takes to put in a library assignment versus sort of the amount of play time and content you get to work through is very disproportionate. So it's why it kind of goes a little bit lower on the to-do list, because there's other things that we can work on, get done quicker, and they have a bit of a bigger impact. There are a lot more things you can do, and they'll be a little bit more exciting. New chests for Clawshot City. Similar to the King's Arm, that is and the tournament hall, that is an area that does need some love, yes. Needs some new chests and rewards and things to buy. App integration for assignments in the mobile app. Yep, that is one of the few areas left that does not have a HUD. That is on our to-do list as well for the mobile app, but again, it's a little bit of a challenge. It's going to be a difficult HUD to implement, so it's gone a little bit lower on the priority list. Law-themed trap skins. Well, with the law expansion, there would be probably trap skins, if that's something you're excited about, was a comment from the chat. The marketplace for the app is a comment from the chat as well. That is on our to-do list. The eventual goal of the mobile app is to let you be able to do everything that the browser version can do. That said, we're just kind of plodding along, doing it as best and as quickly as we can to our abilities, but it may take a while to get everything in. Question about the adventure book in the mobile app, will we be able to hide it? It has been suggested a couple times, so it may be something we add. There are no plans right now to add a hide button, but it has been suggested a few times, so we may look into it. Question from the chat there was for a new parental area. Probably not. I don't think we'll see a massive parental expansion anytime soon. New HUDs for Narnia and Great Gnarled Tree. Well, there is a new HUD for Narnia. It was something that we experimented with. That actually was quite a while ago, but we added the bounties to the town of Narnia. Was a question from the chat there. And that did help with new players quite a bit. They gave them some new goals to work on, and we saw more people would work their way through the town of Narnia and complete that and keep playing for a little bit longer. The Great Gnarled Tree was another suggestion from the chat. We do sort of in the back of our mind have the goal of adding heads-up displays or new objectives and goals to achieve in all those beginning areas. However, it's not something we've had time to work on. I think the last one we did was the windmill when we added Captain Croissant. And similarly, we saw that kind of helped players get through those beginning areas of the game, learn things a little bit better, and it was maybe more fun having a more tangible goal to work towards. Would we ever consider doing a fantasy-themed area with castles and stuff? Well, that's pretty well the entire game. It's definitely in that timeline with some pseudo-technological aspects thrown in. There's definitely fairy mice and elves, and I don't know if we have any elves. Well, we have the princess elf mouse. Elven princess mouse, that's what she's called. Yeah, just to reiterate, because in the chat somebody was asking about the rainbow maps that we previewed on previous Feedback Fridays. They'll be coming early 2016, along with the King's Calibrator as well. So that'll be after the Great Winter Hunt in the new year. You'll see those new things. The question about 3 new skins that were added this week. Yep, technically there are some new skins. Those will not likely make an appearance as well until 2016. We needed a little bit of last-minute fine-tuning, but those will likely be skins that will be added to the King's Arms. Season 4 of Treasure Maps as well, that would be something in the new year, so that wouldn't be anytime soon, was another question from the chat. The King's Calibrator. Someone was asking about the new abilities that we were talking about in previous Feedback Fridays. That will come with the King's Calibrator. That is the little tool this thing here. This is the item that will allow you to unlock those new abilities, and that will be available in early 2016. Someone's asking about updates to the King's Arms. Generally, the King's Arms stock lags behind a little bit of some of the releases, so it's sort of a way when an area's been out for a while to get a little bit of a boost in that area. So we usually don't update the King's Arms too quickly with some of the brand new items. So it'll be a while before there's Labyrinth items available from the King's Arms. And I just like this mouse. Nah, it's facing the wrong way. All right, this brings us to the last portion of Feedback Friday, is the trivia question. And it has to do with the Great Winter Hunt. It is a quantity question. And as usual, if somebody gets the correct answer in the chat, which I have huge faith that somebody will, Larry has a reward ready to go. So the question is, how many Great Winter Hunt event mice are there currently? We did preview a couple new ones, but these will not including these. 42! Somebody got it right away. Peter was right with 42. And from these teaser images, it's safe to guess that there'll be at least 44. Yep, 48 was close. We're getting closer. Larry's reward is in the chat, and I will also include that reward in my Feedback Friday summary in the tavern. It is indeed 42, unless it is entirely possible that I miscounted. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. However, it seems that nobody has corrected me yet. Actually, trying to get an idea of how many new mice there will be. There are certainly a lot of Great Winter Hunt mice. We are going to have these rival mice that you're racing down a slope against, and there will be different ones themed to different difficulties of ski hills. We're kind of using the North American rating system, anyway, of green circle up to double black diamond. And there will be different rival mice to race against in each difficulty. However, you'll probably need some upgrades and some better equipment before you take on the really tough mice. So that would add, there's 4 right there. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I'm gonna say there's probably gonna be there's gonna be over half a dozen new event mice this year as well. There's certainly so many that the majority of what you will encounter will likely be event mice. However, how this did turn out with the different themed courses, there will also mix in some mice from that area as well, and they'll likely maybe drop some loot or otherwise encourage you to use the correct power type as well, because catching mice will help you go faster. So when you take on the Hollow Heights course, there may be a few mice from the Labyrinth or Zocor thrown in. So if you're not using a Forgotten Trap while you go down the hill, it'll be a little bit of a disadvantage. Or an advantage to use the right power type is another way of looking at it. And that actually answers a question we had in the chat there, was will you exclude regular mice and just have event mice? There will certainly be a lot of event mice. However, the hill that you choose to go down to will mix in a few regular mice from that theme of area as well. So if you do the Feroma course, there'll be a few Feroma mice in there, and that's sort of there to add an advantage to using a particular power type or trap. So when you're at the top of the hill and you're about to fly down it, you'll want to adjust your trap set up accordingly for the mice ahead. Will we ever get another rank? Well, we're certainly getting there. Before we add any ranks sort of after Archduke, we'd probably want that would probably happen when we release the first Archduke area, and then that might see a little bit of a tweak to how Archduke works to add another title as well. But that will likely be a ways from now. Can lower ranked players choose higher ranked slopes? Yes, although they will be at a bit of a disadvantage if they do not have a powerful enough trap to take on those harder hills. That said, the whole event can be completed by just doing the easier hills as well. So it works a little bit, I guess. There's some parallels there with the way the cupcake orders worked for the birthday event, where you didn't have to do all the cupcake orders. I think you did earn a journal theme if you did at least one of each order. However, you could complete the whole main point of the event without having to ship every single type of cupcake order. If you didn't have a law trap, for example, the law doing the ones, I think the green ones, or the year that the law mice came out, that would be a little bit challenging. There's a question, yes, we mentioned again, was the different courses will reward loot based on that area as well. So if you do the Feroma course, it's because you want to earn Feroma rewards at the bottom of the hill. There'll be a kind of a nice variety of hills. We're going to try to have as many as we can, time permitting. But we'll definitely pick some of the more popular areas in the kingdom to cover. Just reading the chat here. For the cupcake event, oh, that's right, there was a little bit of a power type tweak, but it was still advantageous to use the right power type for the right cupcake order, so that'll have a similar feel for the Great Winter Hunt as well. Somebody asking about the kind of specifics of the Great Winter Hunt. It's a little too early. As you can see, things are still obviously being polished and in the prototype phase, as you can tell from this screenshot here of a work in progress. So it is definitely too early to share any specific details, just sort of the general direction we're going into, and it's nice to be able to read feedback on that general direction. And obviously the great benefit of doing that is we can kind of tweak things a little bit based on what hunters are saying before the event is released. Someone's asking about Ronza vouchers. They are the limited edition items that you can only get them while she's here. And that is, I don't think we have any plans to change that anytime soon. Tweak the iceberg, please, is a plead from the chat. There's definitely some difficult mice to get there. And a lot of a big part of the game as well is capturing some of those difficult mice to complete your collection, and sort of bragging rights of saying, look at the mouse I got. So some of the mice are very hard to get. And some point of some of the hard to get mice is just that the mouse in and of itself is the reward. It is the main objective of the game, is to try and capture them all. I better tiptoe around that phrase a little bit. Might be some copyright infringement involved. Have to catch them all. Yeah, so they're saying they only go to the iceberg during Easter. That actually is kind of a fun, and hunters can let me know what you think as well. But I do find it fun that the spring hunt event is an interesting time where everything's just a little bit more rewarding as well, but you only have so long to sort of capitalize on it. So it is sort of fun to stockpile a few pieces of cheese here. And hunters can let me know what you think about that as well. But I know I get excited about the opportunity to use up some of my supplies for a little extra reward. All right, I'll take a few more questions here. We'll wrap things up in 2 minutes, as time always seems to fly, as it has now been 43 minutes, to return to then go and work on some of these toboggan courses. Next comment from the chat saying they use the mobile app a lot during the spring egg hunt to get as many eggs as possible. Yeah, some discussion about difficulties of different areas as well. We try our best to do a mix of things as far as active, passive, really difficult objectives in some areas versus less difficult. Uh, for example, the fungal cavern is sort of a pure passive area with decent gold and points return as well. And then the labyrinth is a little bit more active with good point and gold return as well. So you can kind of pick the style which you prefer. Try to do our best to make everything as accessible, so doing something once isn't too daunting of a task, but there are definitely a few mice sprinkled throughout the game that are particularly challenging. Like the M400 mouse is a challenging mouse, the deep mouse. Even the Minotaur is rather challenging as well. Jacob streams for 6 hours. You could try to. The difference is Jacob is drawing something. So there are. I guess I could sit here and just start typing code. I don't think it would be as interesting. Or I could just open up a project management system and start moving around tasks. I don't think that would be as interesting to watch. So we'll wrap things up here on that note, and as I'll get back to working on the Great Winter Hunt with everybody else. Thanks for joining me this week, hunters. I think next week will be another regular Feedback Friday. Jacob has next Friday off, so I think you'll be seeing me again next Friday. Do the art of talking was a comment from the chat there. I'll be posting a summary in the tavern section of the forum, so if you want to let me know the feedback or you want to review anything, there'll be a nice, easy-to-read text version. I'll share all the screenshots and teaser art as well there in a little bit higher resolution than was shared over the stream. All right, thank you again for the kind words in the chat. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy hunting. Can't figure out where the off button is. I'm sure I'll find it in a second.
Just watch me catch you, catch